Parshas V'eschanan. Okay, 958. So Torah says like this: V'eschanan, Moshe Rabbeinu continues with his is it called a soliloquy, where he makes his own. He's making a one man speech. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, "V'eschanan al Hashem ba'isa." Everybody should take a chumash. Everybody should have chumashim. There are plenty of chumashim here. Everybody should take one. V'eschanan al Hashem ba'isa hi leimor. I pleaded with Hashem at that point. After capturing the provinces of Sichon and Og, I plead with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What did Moshe Rabbeinu want? Hashem Elokim, ata achilos alaros azavdecha, azgadlecha, v'zyodcha chazaka, sher mikel ba'shamayim v'aretz asher yasek ma'asecha v'kvidurosecha. You've shown us your great hand. Ebra nove era es ha'aretz ha'tova asher be'eva yarden ha'har ha'tova zevel levanon. Please let me go into the land of Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu is begging Hashem to go into the land of Israel. And he says to the Jewish people, we're going to read one more pasuk. Vayisaber Hashem bi le'manchem. Hashem was angry at me because of you. V'lo shama elai. Vayomer Hashem elai rav loch al tosef daber elai od b'dover hazeh. Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, do not bring this up anymore. I don't want to hear about it anymore. So that means Moshe Rabbeinu davened, and Chazal say he davened 515 times, which is the numerical value of Ve'eschanan. The word Ve'eschanan is 515. If you calculate it out, a Vav is 6, an Aleph is 1, a Tuf is 400, Ches is 8, Nun, and Nun is another 100. It's 515. And Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem says, no more davening. One more davening, and Hashem would have given in. So he said, no more davening. It's the potency of davening. He would allow him in. There's no more davening. And there's a whole discussion about when Moshe Rabbeinu, it wasn't all at one time that he started davening. It's like a guy who forgets Yalav Yavo, and he just has to repeat Shemona Esrei 515 times, on Rosh Chodesh. It happens once in a while, you forget it. Sometimes it happens you forget it the second time through. But if you forget it, 515 times, you got other issues in life. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, like Kodesh Baruch Hu says, no more davening. Now here we see, first of all, the potency of davening. And we see in other places in Torah the potency of davening. Where else? We just had it a couple of one or two parshas ago. What was the potency? Where the unintentional murderer, the Kohen Gadol's mother would bring him gifts. Don't daven that my son should die, because he goes free from the cities of refuge when the Kohen Gadol dies. Now you're talking about a guy who's obviously not on the highest level, a guy who kills somebody unintentionally. Say this is a guy who's got midos work to do, and he's in the cities of refuge. He's being punished, yet his prayer could be so potent that he could actually cause the death of the Kohen Gadol. The mother had to come and bribe him, don't daven that her son should die. Number one. You see the potency, davening does not work. We think davening is just, you daven and you say Shemona Esrei, that sort of thing. Davening is a very powerful thing, which we ourselves don't understand how it works. And by the way, in case you're wondering why does davening work, and there are lots of explanations. Why does davening work? How does that? People always ask us, well, if I'm not supposed to get it, so why does davening help? Right? Yeah. People are always wondering, why does davening work? So there are all sorts of explanations. Why? How does davening, how does prayer work? What's the purpose of prayer? And all of them are true, all of them are correct. Turn back to the book of Bereshis for a second. Just take a look at the book of Bereshis. And turn back to, turn to page, where is it? Page 10. If you look on page 10 in the big blue book. So, if you look at the Eila Toldos Hashemayim Ba'aretz Bihiboram, this is after creation. B'yom Hasos Hashem Elokim Eretz Hashemayim, fifth line on front of the page. V'chol siach hasoda terem yeh ba'aretz. How does he translate siach hasoda, or the vegetation? Now all the trees of the field were not yet on the earth. V'chol esav hasoda terem yitzvach. The grass had not yet sprouted. Ki lohim tir Hashem Elokim ala aretz, because God had not brought down rain. The Adam ayin la'avodas adon. There's no man to work the earth. Now look at Rashi. Crucial Rashi here. Right column of Rashi, 2 lines from the bottom. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Lefisha Adam ayin la'avodas adon. What does it mean? Man's not around to work the earth, so God didn't make it rain, so the plants didn't grow. So he says, "Ve'ein makir betovasam shel geshamin." There's nobody who would appreciate the benefit of the rain. If man's not around, wouldn't appreciate benefit. Ukesheba Adam, when Adam came along, v'yada shehem tzorech la'olam, and he realized that the rain is needed for the world, he spalel aleihem v'yordu. He davened and the rain came down. V'tzamcho eilanos v'adishoyim. So this is already after Hashem had split the atom. Right? You thought that was Albert Einstein discovered that. Right? Hashem split the atom, took out a rib. Hashem split the atom, took out a rib, and there was a bigger explosion. Right? He brought out a woman. So he split the atom. Okay. So after he split the atom, now it comes along the Torah and says, all right, the rain didn't come down. Rain didn't come down because there was nobody to pray. So Adam prayed, recognized the benefit, he prayed, and the rain came down. Now if you'd ask anybody, well, so the plants didn't grow because there was no rain. Yeah, and if there is rain, so why do plants grow? Why do plants grow from rain? Well, now you're going to start telling me about photosynthesis and about all sorts of fancy terms that I never understood in high school anyway, right? Why does rain make the water plants grow? Well, then the seed rots and it redevelops and it sprouts, a whole song and dance. There's only one reason rain makes plants grow, because we're at creation. God created rain to make things grow. Never stop to think about that, right? Why does water work? Why put in water? Why not marshmallow fluff? And then you have sweet wheat instead, sweet barley. Why not water? Well, maybe that's the thing that you need. Maybe marshmallow fluff. They'll make things grow. Why does it rain? Because God created rain. It doesn't say why. It just says, well, it didn't grow because there was no rain. Nobody asks, stuff grows. Yeah, but that's all part of creation. And it was created that it grows if there's rain. And why does rain come down? Because it's part of creation that rain comes down when man prays. Why? Well, you didn't ask why the water makes the wheat grow, so why are you asking why does the prayer make the rain come down? Why is one different than the other? The reason tefillah works, the reason prayer works is because it works. That's why. For the same reason that when you drop seeds in the ground, you didn't ask why they sprout. You didn't ask why an orange has a peel. You didn't ask that, because that's the way it was created. You didn't ask why fish do fish things, right? Because that's how they were created. Well, prayer was created right here. You daven, it rains. Why? Because. For the same reason that trees grow, and for the same reason that tigers have stripes, and for the same reason that everything else in creation, which you never bothered to ask about, there's no reason to ask about tefillah either. Having said that, we should ask about tefillah, because there are all sorts of deeper explanations. But at the end of the day, it's created in the world that when you daven, something happens. Either immediately or down the line, but it has an effect no different than when you put gasoline in a car. Right? You remember the famous story in the Gemara, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, his daughter went to light the Shabbos candles and she got upset. Why was she upset? Because she accidentally switched. Instead of putting oil in the candles, she put in vinegar. Right? So she came and her father looked upset. She looked upset. He said, what are you upset about? She says, well, I put vinegar in the candles. So Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa said, Misha Omar l'shemen v'yadlik Omer l'chometz. The one who decreed that oil should burn and be combustible, he'll decree that the vinegar should burn. So she lit the candles with vinegar, and they burned, and it says they burned all Shabbos till Motzei Shabbos. They made Havdalah on their flight. Now I want to tell you something. What was he saying to her? What he was saying to her is, why does oil burn? Why does oil burn? Anybody ever stop and think about that? Why does oil burn? Oh, well, start telling me about chemicals and the makeup and this and that, and its combustibility and all sorts of fancy words. The bottom line is oil burns because Hashem decreed that oil is going to burn instead of vinegar burning. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have just easily made vinegar burn and run automobiles, and the Saudis would be broke. That would be a good world, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have done that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have made, could have made vinegar burn, but it doesn't make vinegar burn. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu said oil burns. So what Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was saying to his daughter is, well, if you're at a level where you believe that oil is not because it's oil, it's because Hashem said burn. So if you believe that about vinegar, so you can make vinegar burn, what's the problem? So it burned. I want to tell you something. If at one time, the entire Shabbos, if anybody would have in the house would have walked past, it would have gone, wow, the vinegar is really burning, right? Then it wouldn't have burned. Because if you see it as something miraculous, that it's not going to happen. It means that he's telling her, you have to see it as the exact natural process as oil burning. And therefore the vinegar burns. So when Adam Harishon davens, why did it work? Because Hashem decreed at the time of the creation of the world that you want to get stuff, pray. That's how it works. Daven. You have to daven. Okay, there are deeper explanations, many deep ideas behind tefillah. But at the end of the day, it is something that was put into the reality of the world by HaKadosh Baruch Hu when he created the world. Yes, David, go ahead.
This is a crazy question, but like, what if you daven Hash V'Shalom for like something bad? Will Hashem still, if there's like a bad person who wanted selfish things, bad things, and they were davening for it, would Hashem answer?
It's an excellent question. It's not a crazy question. And as a matter of fact, you'll notice that in the rebellion of Moshe Rabbeinu against Korach, sorry, I got it backwards. When Korach rebelled against Moshe Rabbeinu, and he's no good, and he's burning for eternity, him and his cronies. Yet before they have the big showdown, Moshe Rabbeinu prays to Hashem to not accept their offering. An offering is a form of prayer. You got to pray to Hashem to not accept Korach's offering? It's like say praying to Hashem, El Capone is coming to shul. You know, please, nobody give him an aliyah. You know, El Capone, don't give him shlishi. Yeah, nobody accept El Capone's prayers, right? And Korach was worse than El Capone. I mean, El Capone was okay. He was a Chicagoan. Remember, just let's keep it in perspective here. He's a good guy. He's a good bacher, right? So Korach is, what do you call? So okay, so he didn't pay his taxes. So Korach, what do you call? So Korach, what do you call? That's how they nailed him. That's how they got him on tax evasion. So off he went to Alcatraz. Okay, so Korach is, what do you call? So Korach. You got to say Moshe Rabbeinu is worried that Hashem is going to actually accept Korach's offering. The answer is yeah, because even a bad man can pray. Even a bad man can pray. Will it be accepted and to what degree? That I don't know. But is there a potency, is there a potential there? Yeah, there's actually a potential. I don't know exactly how it works. And in general, you don't pray for bad things to happen. I had a guy once told me that every time he davens, the opposite happens. So I said to him, first of all, it doesn't. But second of all, if it's true, so daven that the stock market should go down. You know, daven that you shouldn't win the lottery. You know, if every time you daven, the opposite happens. You know, daven that your wife should take the credit card. Now there's a heartfelt prayer. You daven and the opposite happens. Well, it doesn't. But at the end of the day, there's a bigger potency to tefillah than we think. There's a tremendous potency. So that's what Kosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu. No more. You daven, no more. Okay? Now, let's take it a step further. If you take a look, when Moshe Rabbeinu, the Medrash says that he asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu if he could come into Eretz Yisrael as a bird, and as he even asked if he could come in as an inanimate object. He wanted to know if he could come in as a plant, a rock. But he wants to go into Eretz Yisrael. That's what the Medrash says. Moshe Rabbeinu said, let me flutter in, I'll get 1 second. Let me just fly into Eretz Yisrael, or even toss me in. I'll be a rock in Eretz Yisrael. I'll be a plant in Eretz Yisrael. But let me go into Eretz Yisrael. So the obvious question is, all right, let's say he'd be a bird. I mean, what do you gain by being a bird in Eretz Yisrael? What exactly? You're a rock in Eretz Yisrael. If Moshe Rabbeinu ostensibly, so the Gemara says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu want to go into Eretz Yisrael? He wanted to eat the produce of Eretz Yisrael. He wanted to eat some sabras, right? So the Medrash says he wanted to fulfill the mitzvahs of Eretz Yisrael. Truma, Meiser, and all the things that we're learning about. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to fulfill the mitzvahs of Eretz Yisrael. He doesn't want to go in to eat the fruit. Why, he wants some pomegranates in Eretz Yisrael. You want to get some dates from Jericho. What do you want to go into Eretz Yisrael for? So Moshe Rabbeinu wants to go in to fulfill the mitzvahs. I understand. If you go in as a rock, what mitzvah are you going to fulfill? All right, maybe some guy will throw you in a car on Shabbos, and yell Shabbos by tossing you. You'll be a shliach, You'll be the rock. That's not a mitzvah, by the way. It's an avera. But let's say you want to be a rock. You want to be a tree. What are you going to be a tree? It's pretty boring to be a tree. Right? You want to be a bird. Birds don't have free choice. Birds don't have mitzvahs. There are no mitzvahs for birds. What does Moshe Rabbeinu get? What is Moshe Rabbeinu asking for that for? I want to be a bird to go into Eretz Yisrael for what? What's the point of that? Sounds very dramatic. Ooh, I'm a bird. Fly around Eretz Yisrael. Well, what do you want? What do you want to do that for? What do you want to be a bird for? So you can nail some of the leftists who are protesting. What do you want to be a bird for? The answer is, says Rabbi Feinstein. Only you caught that. The answer is, only Rabbi Feinstein says that every item in the world demonstrates God's glory. The creation demonstrates God's glory. When you see a bird, you're supposed to see God. When you see a tree, you're supposed to see Hashem. Everything it's all about Hashem's glory. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to go into Eretz Yisrael to promote Hashem's glory in Eretz Yisrael. Not that he'll do the mitzvah, but he'll be the object that others could then see HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Eretz Yisrael. Eli, what were we going to ask?
I was going to ask, in the Messianic age, like after the resurrection, will Moshe be able to enter Eretz Yisrael then?
There are sources. The Zohar says that he's going to be the leader at the time of the resurrection. What else is going to happen after Tchias HaMesim is very, very unclear. The Rambam himself writes that when it comes to the Messianic age, the Rambam says that we have to believe there's going to be a Mashiach. We have to believe Mashiach could come at any time. But all the details, what's going to be, the Rambam's terminology is, we won't know until we know. Because there are all sorts of interesting questions, like after resurrection, if a man died, does he have to remarry his wife now? Do they have to have another wedding? Right? They have to, what do you call it? And somebody once said, every marriage is happy. Every marriage in the world is happy. The marriage is always happy. It's living together after the marriage that the trouble starts, right? The marriage itself is every wedding's happy, right? The trouble only begins after the chuppah. The answer is that Moshe Rabbeinu, according to the Zohar, Moshe Rabbeinu will be the leader. There's a source that says, oh, that's all discussed. What's going to happen? Does the husband have to make another kedushin after the marriage? Does the husband have to remarry the wife? What about somebody who's been married twice? A woman who's had two husbands. So which is going to be the real husband after what do you call it? After resurrection? These are all famous questions that are asked. And the answer is, somebody once asked, a man once asked a very big Rav, a guy, a kollel guy, once asked a very big Talmud Chacham. He said, my wife wants to know if we're going to be together in the world to come. Women are concerned about these things. Men just want to know what's for supper. Women want to know if they're going to be together in the world to come. So the Rav said to him, don't be silly. What did he mean by that? He meant, if it's good for a couple to be together in the world to come, and they've earned eternal joy, so they'll be together. If it's not good, they won't be together. These are things that we can't possibly fathom. They're beyond our comprehension. So we all wonder about them. It's normal, natural to wonder about it. But we don't know the answer because the Rambam says we won't know until we know. And there are many, many different questions. They ask if Eliyahu Navi, who went up to heaven, he didn't die a natural death. Was his wife now considered a widow or not? Is she still a married woman, or could somebody else marry her? Like a man dies, so his wife, somebody else can marry. What's the status? These are all quite famous, very famous questions. Okay, good. Now I want to show you something. 1 second. I want to show you something in the words. Take a look at Pasuk Chav Hey. We're going to take this a little further now. In the Meshech Chochmah, you've heard of the Meshech Chochmah of Meir Simcha, Ohr Somayach is named after. Ohr Somayach is the Meshech Chochmah, Meir Simcha of Dvinsk. So he says the following. In Pasuk Chav Hey, fourth line from the top. Ebra na ve'era esa aretz hatova sherbeva yardin hahara tova zav alabana. Let me cross over. Vayisaber Hashem bi lemanchem. Hashem got angry at me. Lemanchem could be because of you, and it could be for you. It could be on account of you. He got angry at me on account of you because I insulted the whole bunch of you when I said they're a bunch of rebels. Or it could be Hashem got angry at me for your benefit. Now, how could it possibly Hashem gets angry at Moshe Rabbeinu for Klal Yisrael's benefit? How could that possibly be?
Instead of taking out his anger on us, he gets angry at Moshe Rabbeinu.
Oh, you're very close.
He takes it out on the temple. And
oh, excellent. That means if let's say Moshe Rabbeinu would have gone into Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu would have gone into Eretz Yisrael. They would have built the Beis HaMikdash. Everything Moshe Rabbeinu did is eternal. The Beis HaMikdash would have never been destroyed. And then what? Never been destroyed. And then what happens if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to punish the Jewish people? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu then takes it out on the people instead of. And the pasuk says, "Kila Hashem chamoso." Hashem expelled His wrath al eitzim ve'avonim. He took out His wrath on inanimate objects, on the Beis Hamikdash. I mean, the people suffered plenty. But had there not been an outlet for Hashem's anger on the Beis Hamikdash, which is the inanimate, so the people would have suffered. So it turns out, says Moshe Rabbeinu, that by Hashem getting angry at me and not letting me into Eretz Yisrael, so then that ends up a benefit for you, L'manchem. Because now when HaKadosh Baruch Hu took out His wrath, He took it out on the stones instead of taking it out on the people, in spite of the fact that the people suffered plenty, but there would have been even more had Moshe Rabbeinu gone in. So ironically, my not going into Eretz Yisrael turns into a benefit for the Jewish people. That's what the Meshech HaChaim says. I'll get to you 1 second, Mayor. But he says the word Vayisaber. If you take a look, the root of the word Vayisaber is Al Ayin Beis Reish, which is Ubar. An Ubar is an embryo. An unborn baby is called a Ubar, Ayin Beis Reish. A woman who's pregnant is called a Uberes, right? She is embryoized, for lack of a better word in English, right? A pregnant woman has got an Uber inside of her. The same way that if you say to a woman who's in her 4th or 5th month of marriage, okay, give birth. Give birth, go ahead, give birth. It's premature. Now, you don't want a baby born premature. You want a baby born at term. You don't want a baby born premature. Vayisaber Hashem bi l'manchem. Hashem is saying, for me to go into Eretz Yisrael to bring the final redemption, it's premature right now. Just like a woman who is pregnant, to give birth early is premature. By the way, I know somebody, my daughter-in-law's sister just recently gave birth in a cab. A cab, a taxi?
In the cab.
Yeah, in a cab, yeah. She gave birth in a taxi. Yeah, no, that's not, that we don't do that. You know, you get that. I know a couple of cases like that where you know the baby is born in a car or in a cab. Some people actually have home births, which are natural. Now they even have things where you give birth underwater. You ever heard of that? Yeah, where you want your kid to grow up to become a scuba diver, apparently. So you give up. Wait, guys, we don't do that. You go to the hospital and you give birth regular. This is not time to experiment. You know, this is not the time to say, hey, let's see what happens if maybe he'll have fins. No, this is not what we do. We do it normally. Go to the hospital where there are doctors and nurses, and that's the way we do it. No cabs and no. And by the way, I think there's a rule: if you give birth on a bus or on an airplane, you get a true lifetime transportation on that. What do you call it? Yeah. Don't think about it, please. Yeah, we're not doing that. But in the unlikely scenario of a water landing, you know, in the unlikely scenario, my mother once actually helped in Israel. My mother was on a tour. She actually helped somebody my mother was a nurse, and she actually a lady gave birth on a bus.
Wow.
Yeah. No, guys, no, don't. If you know, as soon as she says to you, "Oh, you think it might be time," you get her to the hospital. Just go. No playing around. Yeah, Mayor, go again.
So since we've seen through the Torah that Moshe always pleads for the people and asks for the people to be forgiven and so on and so on, and then why is he so close to reach to the point in which perhaps the people would be in extreme danger if he comes to the land of Israel? Like, since the nature of Moshe is always to ask for the people to be saved and to be forgiven and so on, then why he was...
It's a fact. It's a fact is that there's a fact. If he comes into Eretz Yisrael, the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt. Right. Whatever Moshe Rabbeinu does is eternal. It's not going to be destroyed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets angry. There's got to be an outlet for the anger. Well, the outlet can't be. It has nothing to do with mercy or not mercy. It's a fact. That's the way it works. If it can't be taken out over here, it's going to be taken out over here. So it turns out as a benefit for the Jewish people that Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't go into Eretz Yisrael. Okay.
No, that part I understand, but the question is like, why it took him 515 times to not see before that it was a benefit for Jewish people even before?
Okay, that's a kasha already. You know, he would have worked that out. That I don't have any idea. Right. Why didn't he understand that it's better for me not to go into Eretz Yisrael? So it could be you don't make those calculations. Right. Yeah, Blake, go ahead.
I know we're supposed to not have any anger at all. Are we supposed to model our behavior based on this action, that instead instead of taking our anger out on people, we take it out on animals.
That's a problem. We do that all the time. You go home and you slam a door or something. No. Where that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it even says we're not allowed to take revenge. Yet Hashem does take revenge, and Hashem's revenge is a good revenge. So we're not allowed to. Anger is something that is compared to idol worship. We are not allowed to get angry. A person has to control their anger. Is an urge like any other urge, and like any other urge, it has to be controlled. If a person gets angry, it's compared to worshiping idols. Why is that? Okay, so you get angry, and we all get angry sometimes. But the angrier you get, the psychologists, they always tell you, let out the anger is good for you. To the contrary, the more angry you let out the angrier you get. As soon as you start talking, what they say, the Musar masters say that when you're really angry, don't say anything. Because the minute you start talking, when you're, I told you, right, then you just get angry and angrier. Right? Shh, it'll pass. You just got to believe that the urge will pass. Quiet. Shh. Right? Don't say anything. And letting out your anger, people say, well, it's healthy to let out your anger. I think that to the contrary, most people have sudden heart attacks when they're hollering like crazy. That doesn't look like too healthy to me, right? To the contrary, it's healthy to suppress it, and you have to then deal with it. Talk to somebody. Nowadays, I saw your hand. Hold for a few minutes. Nowadays they use an expression, I have anger. He has anger. Right? You ever hear that expression? They use that. It's become a clinical thing now. He has anger. We all have anger. Who doesn't have anger? Everybody's got anger. You got to deal with it. You got to work on it. He's special. He's got anger. What do you mean you got anger? We all got anger. Everybody's got anger. So just because you have anger, so what? I also have shoplifting. Right? I have shoplifting. That's why I shoplift. What do you mean you have shoplifting? Don't shoplift. They work on not shoplifting. What do you mean I have shoplifting? Right? I have anger. Right? You don't have anger. You're a human being. That's part of the human condition. I also have jealousy, and I also have ego, and I also have desires. I also have everything. Okay, we have to work on it. You have to work on it. It's that. Why is it compared to idol worship? Why is anger compared to idol worship? Because if you think about it, most of the time when you get angry, it's because you're not in control. Something happened beyond your control. You want to control something? You want to be in control of a situation? You told your brother to leave the key in the mailbox, and you got home and the brother didn't leave it there. You're not in control. And that's why you get angry. And when we realize that you're right, we're not in control. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in control. My desire to be in control is like idol worship. It means I'm pushing God out of the picture. Therefore, if a person gets angry, the Gemara says a person gets angry, he will experience all forms of Gehenna. Because when a person gets angry, he's capable of anything. You'll say, I don't care. You'll say anything and you'll do anything. When a person's angry, they're out of control. They can murder people when they're angry. And therefore, a person has to learn to control the anger. So we do not model ourselves. The only anger that's permissible, A, is to get angry at sinners, and B, to be angry. Sometimes you have to demonstrate anger in your home. The Gemara says there were Amoraim who demonstrated anger in their home. One of the Amoraim would tear his garment, even though you're not allowed to. So the Gemara says he tore it along the seams. He made sure to tear it on the seams so it could be redone, so it's not destroying it. Otherwise, it's baltashchis. And you have to be able to. Sometimes you have to demonstrate anger, but you're not allowed to feel it in your heart. And that's a very, very high level, because as soon as you start yelling at your kids, even if you're just, okay, I'm going to have to yell at her now, I'm going to have to yell at him now, I don't feel angry, then you start yelling, then you do feel angry. But sometimes you have to discipline your family. Sometimes you have to control your kids also, so that's already not your fault. But better is to always try as much as possible to remain calm. Right? The minute you start raising your voice, anytime you start raising your voice and yelling, the minute you raise your voice, the game over. Nothing's going to get accomplished. Nothing positive is going to happen. Very little gets accomplished when you start yelling. Yeah.
Why aren't you allowed to rip your garment?
Because you're destroying something. It's a baltashchis. You're not allowed to go and destroy things for no reason. You can't just go and destroy things. Okay. Now I want to go one more concept over here, gentlemen. Take a look at HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in Pasuk Chavav. Again, I'm reading the pasuk. Vayisaber Hashem bilamanchen v'lo shomei elai v'yomer Hashem elai rav loch al tosef daber elai od b'davar hazeh. Now look at Rashi on pasuk Chaf Vav. It's the Left column, top line. Left column, top line. Sorry. Fifth line. Fifth line of Rashi, left column. Ravlach. Ravlach could mean enough. You've spoken enough. And Ravlach, also the word Rav means a lot. Ravlach, there's a lot for you. Harbe mizeh shomur lecha. There's a lot more than this waiting in store for you. Rav tuv hatzafun lecha. The treasure that's waiting for you in reward, Moshe Rabbeinu, there's abundant reward waiting for you. You want to go into Eretz Yisrael because you think that'll be good? That's nothing compared to what you have waiting for you. You're not going into Eretz Yisrael, but you got a lot more than that waiting for you. And the Medrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu not only has a lot more of his own reward, he gets credit for all the mitzvahs that the Jewish people do. Why? Because he both taught and caused them to do the mitzvahs. Now, this brings us to a very, very important concept. And I want to ask you the following question, okay? You're going to have to give you two scenarios over here, and you're going to tell me which one you think is bigger. A guy knocks on the door of a hard-working middle-class Jew. Says to him, my father is deathly ill. We need $50,000 for emergency surgery. Can you help me out? He's a hard-working Jew. He's got kids. He's in day school. He's paying tuitions. He says, listen, $50,000 is a lot of money. Come back in a week. I'll see what I could do. He spends an entire week running around, and he goes to one guy and another guy, $18 here, and his father-in-law, $100 here. He spends every waking hour that he's got, and he deprives of it, and he finally puts together the $50,000. The guy comes back a week later. He says, can you help me out? He says, Baruch Hashem, I had siyata d'shmaya, bli ayin hara, what do you call it? Mirza Hashem, Baruch Hashem, all the words, and he says, here's $50,000 cash. Guy bursts into tears. He says, you saved my father's life. How could I ever repay you? He says, don't worry about repaying me. Your father should be healthy. That's the biggest repayment. The guy takes the money. He leaves the house, goes out to the street, flags down a cab, goes to the airport, flies off to Las Vegas, and he gambles all the money away. There's no father. There's no, what do you call it? The entire story is a fabrication. He's a professional con man. Scenario number one. Scenario number two, the guy knocks on the door of the richest frum Jew in the world. He says, Kaplan, my father is deathly ill. We need, can't hurt the hope, right? My father is deathly ill. I need $50,000 for emergency surgery. Kaplan says to him, go speak to my secretary's secretary. So he goes to the secretary knocks on the door, doesn't say a word. She looks at how much do you need? So $50,000, he says she writes out a check, gives him the money. He goes to the hospital, pays for the surgery, and the father is cured. Question. Who gets greater reward, gentlemen?
First one.
The Jew in scenario number one, who tried as hard as he could, and he ended up being deceived by a professional con man, or that Kaplan in scenario number two who never even picked up the pen to write out the check, but it was his money that actually brought about concrete results and the father was cured. How many of you think number one? How many of you think number two? How many of you don't think? Can they be equal? If that's what you think, it could be equal, but it's not. It's not. The answer is, it's not equal, it's different. That means reward for effort, exertion, energy that was invested, for sure, number one.
He lied.
But he didn't lie. The guy deceived him. The guy deceived him. Remember what happened. The guy deceived him. The good Jew was deceived by a con man. He ran around collecting the money, doing as much as he could, but he was deceived. He gets reward for what he tried to do, but at the end of the thing, he doesn't get reward for curing the father because there was no father.
Also, it wasn't his money.
Well, you get reward for collecting tzedakah. You get reward that you get to the contrary. The word is Godol hama'asa yoser mina osa. One who gets others to give gets more reward than the actual people who gave, because it's much harder to ask people than it is to give. I'd much rather give than ask other people to give. That's for sure. Number one. In scenario number two, Kaplan didn't even pick up the pen to write out the check, but it was his money that was given. Surgery was performed. The father was cured. Now, he gets reward for that father. Now, 1 second, it doesn't end over there. So he gets reward for saving somebody's life. Number one. Number two, the father gets off that table and he decides, listen, Hashem gave me a new lease on life. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to devote the rest of my life to Hashem. So he goes and he opens up a yeshiva, and there are 300 boys learning Torah in his yeshiva. Who shares in every word of Torah that's learned in the yeshiva? That Kaplan who never even picked up the pen to write out the check. 1 second. One of these boys becomes, let's be dramatic, one of these boys becomes a superstar learner, a real star. And he marries the daughter of a big Rosh Yeshiva. And a year later, they have a baby. And that baby turns out to be Mashiach. Right? Whoa, yeah, well, we're there. Let's bring him, right? The baby turns out to be, who gets reward? Who shares the reward? That Kaplan never even picked up a pen to write out a check. That means that there are two aspects to the reward. This goes back to what Dylan said. They're not equal, they're different. You get reward for effort, and you get reward for results.
Show your work.
And right now, I hated that, right? When the teacher would say, well, you got to show your work. Yeah, I'll show you my work. His name is Ricky. That was my work, yeah. Just can you move that paper over a little, Ricky? That was my work. So the what do you call it? When it comes to effort, you get reward for effort. What about the results? The results are endless. That's called a ripple effect. And if you have an influence on somebody else, you now share it. That means if you get up in the morning, let's say you're in shul, and you drop 10 shekels, you drop a shekel into the pushkit. And there's somebody else in shul say, oi, I didn't give tzedakah today. I got to give tzedakah. Yeah, I saw you do it, so I did it. You now share in his tzedakah. How much shares do you get? That only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can calculate.
Isn't that jealousy a little bit? 'Cause if you, like,
Not jealousy at all. It's a benefit for us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows us that what you do and who you influence, you share. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you a reward. You share in their reward. No jealousy over here. You're just doing, you're behaving. If somebody sees you and say, wow, this guy never says anything bad about other people. You know what, really, I should improve in this area. And you improve because of him, so now he shares in my improvement. You share in my not talking Lashon Hara. That a person who does anything for anybody else, and you influence other people, and by the way, you don't even have to influence people, you have to influence people intentionally. You can influence people without doing anything. That you just go about your business and people see who you are, then you are now going to have shares. How many shares? Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows how that works exactly. How it's distributed, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows. I'll tell you a story. It happened here in Eretz Yisrael. There's a documented incident. There's a guy, a Sephardi boy, Sephardi bacher. So he was in a yeshiva, and he had to go look up some documents. In the old days, you didn't just Google everything. There was a world before Google. Dave, remember that? There was actually people, they don't know that. You know, that was back in the day when people used pens. Guys, this is called a pen, right? There were pens, and people actually had telephones that were attached to a wall, right? And you actually had to open your car door manually, and you couldn't just hit buttons and have your car look like some sort of robot. You know, there were days like that. And so this guy had to look up some documents. What we used to do, and I remember I've done this myself, you had to do research. So you would go to a library, and they had what they call microfilm. You look up this microfilm in the library. It was yeah, I know, David, you're looking at me like, what? These people are dinosaurs. You know, well, that's what we did. And actually, do you know what happened when you dialed the phone and you got a busy signal? You know, you had to actually dial again. Could you believe it? You had to dial, push 7. Yeah, we made it, Dave. We're here, right? Here we are. We made it. So this guy goes, this Sephardi bacher, he goes into the library at Hebrew University. He's a bacher, yeshiva bacher. So he goes into the library and he's looking up these documents. He's there a whole morning. He looks up the ancient manuscripts for the Gemara. He finishes his research, and he pulls out his lunch in the library and he benches. And when he's benching, so Sephardi in the Nusach Sfard, they say, Shalone vosh, viloni kolem, may we not be put to shame and not be to degradation, viloni kashel, and may we not stumble, lo lam va'ed. So he's benching out loud, you know, and he says, Viloni vosh, viloni kolem, viloni kashel. Okay, so the librarian comes walking over to him, a girl, And she says to him, listen, I come from a traditional home. I'm not religious myself, but I heard you say, veloni kashel, you added in the expression, may we not stumble. There is no such nusach. That doesn't exist in the benching. He says, yes, it does. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. So he says, it does. I'll show you. I'll send it to you. So he goes home, and he takes a sitter, and he photocopies the page of the benching that says, veloni vosh, veloni claim, veloni kashel, may we not stumble, circles the words in red marker, puts an envelope, and he sends it off to the girl. That's the end of the story. About 2 years later, this guy's married, and he's living in Bnei Brak, and he gets an invitation to a wedding. So he takes a look at the invitation, doesn't recognize the name of the chas of the kala, anybody doesn't recognize anything. He has a very common Sephardi name, his name is Chaim Cohen, so he figures the invitation was a mistake. That night, the night of the wedding, he was studying with his chavrusa, and he's starting to walk home, and he noticed that his route home took him right past the wedding hall. So he decided, I'll go check anyway. So he sticks his head into the wedding hall, and as soon as he walks in, a guy walks over and says, "Ata Chaim Cohen?" He goes, yeah. He goes, the Kala would like to speak to you. He's like, well, this is highly irregular. I'll meet her at the mechitza. Right? He's a frum guy. So he walks up to the mechitza, and the Kala, the bride, is there. And she looks at me, a flutter, remember me? So she says, no. She goes, do you remember we once had an argument in Hebrew University in a library? There was a librarian. She told you there's no such thing as veloni kashel, even not stumble. He goes, oh, yeah. Says, I want to tell you something. I was the librarian. And the day we had that argument, I was in the middle of a relationship with an Arab boyfriend. And one day he called me up and he said, either you marry me or I'm going to dump you. So I went home and I thought over his very romantic proposal. But with whatever I had going on in my life at the time, I decided I would marry this guy. On the morning of the day that I was going to say yes, I got a letter in the mail. And I open it up and I pull out a page, a photocopied page of an old siddur, and I see the words, veloni kashel, may we not stumble, circled in red. And I thought to myself, ooh, somebody's trying to tell me something. So I picked up the phone and I called him up and I said, Walid, you are dumped. And then I checked into a seminary for Balas Tshuvas, and I started studying about why it is that we daven not to stumble. And I became frum, and today I'm marrying a Yeshivat Ohr. And I want to tell you, you're the most important guest at this wedding. Wow. And all of the mitzvahs that happen in this marriage, all Shabbos, kashrus, the children, everything that happens in the marriage, it's because of you. You have shares. That's what it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rewards you for a ripple effect. What did he do? All he did was find a red marker, which wasn't always that easy, by the way, to find the marker out. He found a red marker, remembered to do what he was supposed to do. After all, he is a male, right? And yet he remembered to do what he said he would do, circled it and sent it. That's what Moshe Kodesh Baruch Hu was saying to Moshe Rabbeinu. Ravloch, you got a lot of reward coming, Moshe Rabbeinu, because everything that the Jewish people do, you're going to share in that. A person who behaves properly. By the way, don't try to influence people. You have to try. All you have to do is we be ourselves. Do what we normally do. People will notice us. People notice us. They're influenced by us. You can obviously try to influence people. If you're good at influencing people, you should certainly try. But you don't have to even go out of your way. All you got to do is be a good Jew. People notice you, and then when a person gets there after 120 years, there's a lot more there than they expect to find. We'll continue tomorrow.